be honest, your favorite character. I want to thank you for joining us on this adventure. Starlight has taken a lot of love from all four of us, and from the bottom of our hearts, we are so thankful. Every review, every subscribe, every Patreon subscriber, or in any way that you give back to Starlight means the world to us. And in case you didn't know, each rating or review helps reveal our podcast for those finding new podcasts and adventures to go on. I truly hope you enjoy the venture ahead. Until next time, see you later, Spacers.
Hello, Spacers. It's Isaac, your host, GM, and neighborhood track athlete. We're going to do something a little bit different here this week, and probably for the next Q&A session, and potentially after that. As you all know, this is a space opera sci-fi adventure, and it couldn't be complete without starships and dragons. That's right, the very vehicles which we use to pilot across the Antimonous galaxy. But with that comes a whole new set of systems that D&D 5e was not meant to have. That is, piloting vehicles, going through epic space battles, stealing vehicles, boosting speeders, and making daring escapes or runs. So, as the Spacers are, and don't tell them, closing in on getting their first starship or dragon, unless they stole one by now, which I've been waiting for that. But anyways, if they haven't, don't tell them. It's coming up around the corner. And with that, there may come scenarios, because I'm not omniscient and I have no clue what they're going to do, where they might need to pilot, to escape, to battle, to astronavigate, who knows? And with that comes rules that me and the players have discussed, but you have no idea what we're talking about. So, in this Q&A section, this lore segment is dedicated to starting to reveal and pull back the curtain of our homebrew rules for starship, dragon piloting, and land vehicles. If you're interested, besides more than just hearing this little audio treat, and you want to find out more, head over to our Patreon, where you can find the link to in our description within whatever podcast app you are looking at right now. There you'll be able to find the sheet, and if you have any interest in bringing it in, tweaking it, or even telling us that we did a terrible job, jump on over there. Go ahead. Have a crack at it. Let us know what you think. And with that, let's jump in to a short segment on vehicles. So everyone has their sheets, so walk y'all through it. So they're specifically made to be, a lot of it is like Starfinder inspired, but a lot simpler. I don't like, my main issue with Pathfinder is how not simplistic it is, how much, I don't know, I don't enjoy the D&D 3 E all that much because of how much math was involved to do anything, and Starfinder is very much that way. So I tried to dumb it down, make it as simple as possible. So, as I was telling Sam, there are 3 different classes of vehicles. You have dragons, which you guys are familiar with, and of those, you have compact, which is more like sizes. Compact is more like smaller freighter, medium-sized dreadnought. Think like giant armada type Battlestar.
Imperial starship.
Yeah, there we go.
That's what I want.
If a dragon is a biological, almost entity, with that, a starfighter is old school, made of metal, electric, all that sort of stuff. And then you have any sort of land vehicles, which come in the three flavors. So all the rest is to kind of help parcel out the sheets. So,
Ooh, you really went into this.
You'll see that the vehicle name is, honestly, it's going to be whatever you guys name it. The make is, again, Dragon, Starship, Land, and then specifically what kind. The first box you'll see is Maneuverability. Maneuverability is something specifically added to whoever is piloting it. So let's take a step back. In general, unless it's a skill challenge or a combat thing, you're not going to have to really do many rolls. Maybe the pilot's going to have to do some more stuff depending on what's going on circumstantially. So let's talk about this in terms of combat. It's side combat with these because you have a crew, and the crew is manning the ship from different positions. So one side's going to go, and all their crew is going to take their actions in any order that the crew decides to take the actions.
Okay.
So it gives you guys a little bit of strategic leeway, and then it moves over to the other person. And the crew has different roles that are filled at a time. So every starship is slightly unique. I do have cookie cutter ones, but in the game you guys are free in the same way to like go find someone to like modify, get prosthetics, all that sort of stuff. It's the same. You can go to like a shipyard and start augmenting your ships once you have one, or that you've stolen one or whatever. So
just makes the assumption that we're gonna steal.
Yeah, it'll probably happen.
Yeah. So the cookie cutter thing is
try to steal Atlas's ship in the beginning.
You guys did.
Nah, I went to go explore it.
You sat on the entrance. It's
I
just
was
sat there.
You stowed away.
I tried. Yeah. Well, after I tried to hack into it.
You're the one who tried to steal it.
How dare you accuse me of such
Hacking
things?
into I just sat on the landing.
Maybe that was our plan all along. Maybe we already.
Train's off.
Is it on?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was cold.
Oh, got you. So in general, everyone has like one role that they're going to fill at a time. You can switch the roles. So, for example, if you look on the right side of the sheet middle, it says actions. One of the things is switch position. I put like an underscore mark. That actually has no plus to it. It's just like you choose to spend your action of that turn doing that or not.
Okay.
And switching positions, essentially, there's 3 main positions. And that's the pilot, that's gunners, and then that's anybody repairing, or if there's anything, like let's say you're in the gunner's position and then circumstantially something comes up, then you're gonna take the switch position action to go do that. Like let's say like a fire erupts in the med bay or something. That might, depending on the situation, it might fall under repair type thing anyways. So every ship has its own amount of guns. It's dependent. Cookie cutter though is usually there's only one pilot seat. That could change depending on how you guys augment, so you could get some control issues. But generally you're going to switch back and forth between positions. So let's say we're in combat. So maneuverability, it's every ship has like base things, but this modifier you'll add to the piloting checks of your action. So I know that you play the pilot for the most part. So dodge, barrel roll, flyby. You're going to take the maneuverability score and add that in addition to your own piloting score that you have on your character sheet.
Is that just the piloting skill?
Yep.
The vehicle handling?
Yeah,
Yeah, okay. Okay, so your maneuverability is just your piloting score, right?
No, the ship itself is like, like some vehicles are more maneuverable.
Yeah. Oh,
You're
so
gonna
the ship
add
itself
that.
has its own stats that you're then adding
you're adding
piloting. Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, and then speed. This is how quickly you move in comparison to other ships, and it's how that equates on the battlefield. It's how many hexes a ship can fly in a turn. So you're going to see that speed's relatively low for ships, because I'm just not going to have you moving 500 spaces.
You mean I can't move 600 light years away?
Yeah.
I jump into hyperspace and move over there into another galaxy, so you can't fight me.
But
Well,
it's not happening.
I mean,
So then it makes me wonder. I'm sure we'll probably get to it, but like, if you wanted to make an escape attempt in your ship,
yeah, you can do stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah, I have rules for that. But so speed's just relative. For example, the land speeders you guys took, that has a speed of 2. So that's way more than anything you guys could actually physically move as people, but as ships you're moving that hex.
Got it.
Initiative. The initiative changes. It's equal to the whoever's piloting the ship's initiative, because they're the ones making the controls. So, let's take the initiative. And in the time-honored words of our favorite Star Wars characters, Chewie, punch it. And with that, let's pop on over to our Q&A and exclusive interview with a content creator in the Dungeons & Dragons community. Jay is a person who has been creating and playing D&D for a very long time. He's played a myriad of different tabletop RPGs and has been playing D&D since its inception and since the time that it was considered satanic to play such said game. He's seen it all, and not only that, he takes the game to a whole new level. He is using it at his job at a correction facility to help with not only passing the time for some of the inmates, but also with like therapy and helping them kind of like figure out how to make better life decisions and so that they can move on. And Jay has been able to find a way to not only have the love of tabletop RPG games make a difference in his life, but in others. And that's not it. He is a person that you'll find with many interests, including crafting, which he does on his own channel, and you will be able to find that down in the link in the doobly-doo. And without further ado, I want to give these last few announcements before we jump in. So, first off, thanks to Cameron and the crew over at Table Talk. You guys are awesome. You got us really interested in starting a Discord community. And if you don't know what that is, Discord is essentially a community platform where you can join us for free and literally have chats with me, the GM, and the spacers of the show, as well as meet other folks who are interested in similar things, find resources for those of you who want to get into D&D, or just talk about the show or anything really. It's an open book. And Cameron, thank you. You guys at Table Talk, another podcast show that everyone should go check out. You guys showed us how to do that, and we are just really excited about it. And then I'm going to say a big thanks to someone by the name of Ben Godfrey. You are the man. Just recently, I got a message from someone over social media who found out, basically through an interview of mine, that I love Yu-Gi-Oh cards. And he sent me Yu-Gi-Oh cards. A ton of them. So thank you, Ben. I feel like a little bit of my childhood has come back. And then also, Courtney, or McKenna Ali, has been doing cool things in the sector of nonprofits and Ring of Hope. If you haven't checked them out, they are surrounding vulnerable youths with all the support structures to have a self-sustainable future out in Kenya and eventually the world. And you can now go visit them at their website, donate, help them bring this mission to life. And then lastly, we have maybe some exciting news. Now, in no way is this a sponsorship or anything, but we love using Paizo's cutout pond pieces. And those pond pieces, they're beautiful, they're works of art, and they're so easy to move around in. Well, Paizo might be sending us a few of these, and if they do, we will be sharing with you some of the different art pieces. And yeah, that's just a really cool thing for us as we are establishing ourselves in the community. So without further ado, enough of this guy talking. Let's move in to this Q&A.
On my Facebook feed, Dungeon Master Resources, some guy posted a picture of himself standing just in his boxers and says, "Hi, I'm new to the group, I'm so-and-so." And the comments were like, "We don't do that here." Another comment was, "Not that kind of Dungeon Master." I was like, because I looked at it, I had to double check the page it was under.
Yeah.
And I was like, some guy's just an idiot.
That's hilarious.
It was totally funny.
Are we live?
Yeah, we're live right now. So anyone can join, but right now it's just us. Yeah.
I have the agent in my lap.
Oh yes, everyone who has listened to our show has definitely seen Marty McFly.
But does everyone know that's the inspiration for McKenna's disguise name?
Marty McFly?
Yeah. So Jay, you don't know this, so
I'm gonna find out, I guess, right now.
We'll tell you. So,
all right.
McKenna, who's the character that I play, she kind of had to go undercover because, she was put in prison and then had to escape and kind of had this, it was an awesome story. But then, obviously, when you escape from prison, you don't want to look like you are, and she's the only Loxodon ever.
Of course.
What it feels like. And so, she puts on this collar, and then so this cog makes her look like something else, but she's the same size as she was before, so she's this like oversized human. It's amazing, but the oversized human, her name is Marty McFly.
Marty!
Yes, exactly.
Do you do the voice?
No.
Doc, what are we going to do?
Mm-mm.
No, I'm the
Okay.
one who has to go. We're gonna go get that kid. All right.
Okay.
So, guys, welcome to this Starlight special recording with our guest content creator, community special star Jay.
Oh boy.
Yeah, you got a lot to live up to. But Jay,
Yes.
we are super excited to have you here for this episode of
I am
Starlight.
super excited to be here.
Oh, good. I wasn't expecting that enthusiasm.
Well, you know,
I mean,
I don't think he's excited. Are you really excited? to
I'm
be
really
here?
excited.
Okay, now you said it less excited than you did the first
It was a little more sarcastic.
Yeah.
That's how I roll.
All right.
I was gonna say something really mean.
Okay.
And
I'm married. Go ahead. I'm used to it.
all right, I was gonna say you've seen D&D from like pretty close to the beginning, and I was gonna say
I
you're
did.
pretty lively for a corpse.
Yeah, thanks.
Jake, tell us about the transition, like from then to what D&D was like.
Oh, when
You
I first started,
playing?
based on then up to what it is
Yeah,
now.
and like the different.
When I first started in high school, like the early 80s, a friend of mine, he introduced a pamphlet called Chainmail.
Mhm.
And then it had a fantasy supplement that went with it. So,
Okay.
and you can still find these. They actually, Wizards of the Coast put out like a collector series of the 3 pamphlets, which was later called Dungeons and Dragons, Monsters and Treasure, and then I want to say like something about spell. I can't remember now off the top of my head, but there's 3 pamphlets that were like maybe 40 pages each.
Okay.
But I started with that, and we didn't have all the cool stuff you have now. You could get the dice, and the dice were usually not the greatest plastic. They're not as Tiffany's as they are now.
Are we talking like Yahtzee dice?
No,
here?
you use the polyhedral dice,
Oh,
but they
okay.
were like molded out of regular plastic, out of just some different colors, all solid colors, and then you were given a wax, kind of a crayon, that you would like gouge in. The number was inset,
No.
and then you draw the crayon in and fill it with the wax from the crayon,
Oh,
so you
wow.
could see the number. Yeah,
Wow, that's like the trenches right there.
yeah. Well, and then they later had the red box
Uh huh.
that everybody, the legend of the red box, and they had those same dice in there and gave you a crayon, so you could color your own dice in.
I wonder. So
Do you still have any of these?
Oh heck no, because it was one of those things. I started and I just played it and bought more dice and then got rid of them. Didn't play it like all the way up until now. I took, I was doing other things and I could come back into it.
Mm.
And no, I wish I did, because then I could retire.
how much do you think that would be worth these days?
I have no idea, and I don't want to look because I'll cry.
Okay. All right.
So, started with that, and we really didn't have figures. I think Raoul Partha at the time was cranking out lead figures.
Mm.
So now they do pewter because lead poisons you. They figured that out. But we had graph paper. We had a designated mapper in our group
Uh huh.
and a party leader, and the DM would just describe what we're seeing, and the guy would be diligently mapping on the graph paper so we could see where we're traveling. There weren't like actual battle mats or anything like that. So it was mainly theater of the mind
Mhm.
at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Then second edition came along, and they tried to improve it, because back in the original days, your armor class was a descending armor class. Like the lower the armor class, the better. So you started at 10,
Mm-hmm.
and like 6 was better than 10. And then you got down into the zeros, which is like a 20.
Well, wait. How does that work? I'm confused. So like,
They just did it the opposite the way they do
Okay.
it now.
okay.
Which-
So it was like a nat 1, like a critical 20.
No,
Oh, okay.
no, it still counted as you had to roll a certain number.
Okay.
Because what it was, and this is why it made no sense. Even when I was playing it, I was like, why are we not ascending armor class instead?
Mhm.
So if you had like a 2 armor class,
Mhm.
it equated an 18. So you had to roll an 18 or better
Okay.
on the
I
D20.
see.
Okay.
So yeah, they did it kind of, it was a little more complicated than it needed to be, and they finally fixed it with it now. an 18's an 18, not a 2.
Yeah.
So that's how it started. And then they came out with second edition, and they came out with this thing called THACO.
THACO.
Yeah, like to hit armor class 0 was what that meant. And it was a way, even more complicated way of figuring out. So that, second edition didn't stay as long. And then it had stuff in it that was okay. And if I remember correctly, I believe that's where Ravenloft came in, was a second edition device. That's where Ravenloft was first introduced. Then they came out with 3, and then quickly after that, 3.5. And so we played that, and that fixed a lot of the problems of the first 2 editions. Then they came out with the edition we will not name.
4?
Yeah. Oh,
really?
boy,
You hate it?
No, I didn't. Here's the reason I didn't like it, and it's not their fault.
Okay.
It was designed. The books that came out were only half of it. The other half was supposed to be an online component that never made it. They never got it going for whatever reason. So it was like half a game, and that's why when you read the 4th edition stuff, it seems more like play manuals for a video game, like Skyrim or something, because it's missing a lot of the things, the mechanics that were going to go online but never did.
I feel like that's what I've heard. It felt so. I've heard from a lot of people who loved something like Final Fantasy Tactics or something like that. These like very turn-based games that they loved 4E because it felt like that. And it felt like a game.
Exactly, it was more of a video game. So it was kind of the Vista, the Windows Vista of D&D. It was the kind that they changed to and nobody really liked. So then they started putting out stuff about people wanting to get in on the play testing, the beta testing of 5th edition. So I jumped on that, and then I was getting emails that would have a module in it and pre-generated characters. And the idea was you play through these modules and then you send your feedback. How well did that work with this particular set of rules? And then they would ask questions like, what do you feel is a good 1st edition spell for a wizard? And they listed a bunch, including Fireball, which I thought would be cool, but it's still a little powerful for 1st level wizard and 1st level characters.
Yeah.
Because it does so much damage and characters don't have any hit points. Then they came out with 5th edition, and that's what we seem to be all playing right now.
Well, so 5th edition is nice because it's so streamlined. I mean, it is.
It's good for beginners. It gets them in really quick because it doesn't take as long. Because in the original days, in the before times, it took for like an hour and a half to roll up a character. So if you died in the middle of the module, you were spending the next hour and a half too rolling up a new character, and by then they might have already solved the dungeon.
Well, that kind of sucks. I get that. That sucks.
Yes.
But then I've also seen campaigns played where sometimes I feel like it's nice for the players to check out for an hour and a half and make a character because they're just sitting there waiting to be introduced.
Well, what I've learned to do, depending on the game I'm playing, because I don't play just Dungeons and Dragons, I play other systems as well, and some are more lethal than others, so I have a backup character ready to go in case I die in a super lethal game.
Yes.
And that way they can just find me along the road, like in the next 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I like that. All of my players, everyone who's going to do a one-shot with me at some point, do that. But actually, I was going to say, what is lethal to you? Because lethal in the old days was you had a 10-foot pole and you had to tap every little thing because there was a death trap.
It can be that way. A lot of times, the original game, you had your wizard starting at like a D4 for hit points. You could get no more than 4 hit points. I rolled up a wizard one time, and this is what put me off playing magic users for the longest time, is I rolled up a wizard, I had like 3 hit points, we ran into cavemen, I got hit in the head, and I was dead. So taking an hour and a half to roll up a character, and 5 minutes later he's dead, and I had to do it all over again. I was not happy. So that's lethal.
Yeah.
Because the limited, I should say the small amount of hit points you start with. But lethal can be fun because it makes the players not fight everything they encounter, because they go, well, there's 3,000 kobolds and 4 of us. We should probably talk to them.
Yeah.
So we don't die.
Yep.
Because they can swarm you. Yeah, they might be like 1 or 2 hit point creatures, but you have 30 on you at one time doing damage.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of like letting players, especially new players, kind of see the potential consequences of getting it over their head early, whether that's like getting themselves in trouble politically with hot water, or like I guess this is maybe the difference between me and like someone who's played like the 1st and 2nd edition where there was literally no mercy. But I don't mind like pulling a punch in the very first game if a player's going to get killed and just leaving them hanging on the thread.
I will see. My philosophy when I'm running a game is the players have fun.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a total party kill in the first 10 minutes, that is not fun.
No.
Mm-hmm.
So, depending on who I'm playing with, whether if it's newbies who really don't know the game very well and stuff, I will fudge my dice rolls so they don't die.
Yeah.
Because they might be down to 4 hit points and I'll roll a nat 20 on whatever's attacking them. I'm like, I don't really want to kill them.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll tell them I missed.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you who think that's cheating, too bad.
I believe that's in the DMG as the rule of cool, in which
it's so they have fun.
Yeah.
And that's my total goal. It's not me against them. It's them having fun, and I'm the facilitator of the fun.
Mm-hmm.
I've played with DMs who do that. They are just out to get you.
Yeah.
Not fun.
Mm-hmm.
Because it can generate bad feelings at the table.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why are you being such a jerk and trying to kill my character? It's not kind of the point of the game.
No, yeah.
But,
I mean, yeah, so it's like a good GM will be able to parse that out, right? And they'll be able to take on the motives of their bad guy, but at the same time trying to be on the side of the players.
Oh, definitely.
From a GM
definitely.
standpoint.
And I always say yes to what they ask. Like, you can try.
That's a great answer.
I want to dive off the cliff, land on the giant's shoulder, reach around, stab him in the eye with my dagger, backflip off him, land on the horse, and ride away. Yes, go for it. Okay, and here's all the rolls you're going to need to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And the more rolls you give them, the more chance for a natural one. Oh, well, you missed the horse, landed and broke your leg. Now you're laying at the foot of the giant with a dagger in his eye who's really mad at you. What do?
See, that's the beautiful part. Because when they do all those cool things, I think one of the things that's great for the storytelling of D&D or any tabletop RPG is you're trying to create drama. And
exactly.
When the players, the more embellished and cool things they do, the more chances of drama they're accidentally creating for themselves.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, if a fighter says, I'm going to try to heal myself, my first question is how?
Mm-hmm.
You don't have any magic. Oh, well, I have potions. Oh, okay. Well, then use the potions. Just say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Tell me what you're doing so I can give you the proper whatevers to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, you said you'd fudge dice rolls if you'd rolled nat 20.
Well,
and you would say you failed.
Yeah.
Now, here's a follow-up question.
Sure.
Have you ever done the opposite, where you've rolled like a nat 1 and you're like, oh, I really want to take this guy down?
No, I don't. I always take my own dice rolls.
Oh.
If I roll a nat 1, I was playing a game yesterday, and I was running it, and all my creatures were rolling like below 10, like for the first 20 minutes. And I was like, dang it, what is the problem with, I didn't put batteries in my dice that day. That was my thought. Or I didn't gas them up or something was wrong.
Are you superstitious with dice?
I am and I'm not.
Okay. I want to get into that.
I am sometimes, but I'm not usually.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like I will in game be a little bit. But as far as like, don't touch my dice, you'll ruin the magic.
Oh.
I'm more like, don't touch my dice, you might have germs.
Courtney's missing a thumb where she touched my dice and I chopped it off.
I understand.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
That was in the beginning.
See? Now, am I a dice whore? Yes. They're like shoes for nerds. That's what I look at. I mean, I don't need any more dice. But I mean, lately there's been an advertisement on my Facebook feed for these dice that have LEDs inside and they light up and the numbers light up.
Of course you need those.
And they have an app so you can control the color on your phone. Ooh. And I'm like, I don't really need those. And I may never actually use them because I don't know if they roll right, because I don't know how they're weighted because of the electronics inside. But just to have them on a shelf and make them light up would be really cool. I'm not sponsored by this group, by the way, just so you know. I just noticed them. So yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have all kinds of dice.
Yeah. So okay, before I rudely interrupted, you were telling us about how bad all your minions or monsters are rolling.
Oh, just that one game, and then there's other times where the players are doing the same thing, and they can't hit a thing.
That has happened to me. Yes,
it does. It does. Yeah. That's why I usually, because I have a dice box that I made, and I usually put at least 5 different sets of dice in there. So if one's not rolling right, the superstition is, I'll roll this one instead.
Oh yeah.
Have they all ever rolled bad?
Oh yeah.
And
that's when I gave up the superstition, obviously. Yeah, it's operator error. It must be my fault for not flipping my wrist right or something.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yes.
Yeah. Well, that makes me wonder. So, because I too keep my rolls, it's making me think of like the GM screen, right? That screen separates you from the players, sort of, and allows you to do that. Now, I was digging back as I was looking at kind of like the little bit of like the systems you sent me and how long you've been playing, and I stumbled across this thing about how GMs in the old days used to literally put up a whole wall.
Our group didn't do that. The guy running, we had a kid who was running the game at the time. I played more often. I didn't DM until later. He usually put up like a binder. He would just put a binder up in front of him. And even today when I do use a screen, I actually make my own screens. Mm-hmm. I have the regular ones, but I make my own, and I make them short, so I can see over the top of them.
Yep.
And I stand up a lot of times when I'm running the game. Mm-hmm. I sit down once in a while, maybe to make a note or something. But normally when I'm telling everybody what they're seeing, hearing, smelling, that whole bit, or saying what my guys are doing and rolling dice, stuff like that, I'm standing up so I can see everything at the table and everybody can see me. And I just use the screen to maybe keep whatever creatures are going to come out later at the ready, and notes I have, and maybe some maps and things, so they can't see it.
Mm-hmm. So when you're standing up, is it just so you can see, or do you actually
it's
use
so they can see me as well?
Okay.
Yeah, because if I'm narrating something, I will narrate it like I'll act stuff out.
Yeah.
So they can visually see what it is I'm talking about. Yeah. If some guy is having some kind of weird spell attack and he's spasming, I'll do the spasm, make the noises and stuff.
Well, that's a pro tip, even in so I've been getting into voice acting, and that's one of the pro tips is you always act out literally with your body what you're doing.
Yes,
and the voice follows.
I do voices too, just because I'm all about the immersion of the players. Especially if you're doing theater of the mind, you have to do all that because they don't have anything else to look at.
Right.
If you're just saying you're going down this 10-foot hallway, the ceiling's 10 foot high, the floor is smooth, they don't actually see that. They have to imagine it. So when you're saying, well, you see this thing stumbling towards you, and you can see flesh rotting off the bones and things like that, you can describe it. And I also never tell them what they see. I don't give the name of whatever it is. You see a beholder. No, I describe, you see this big round thing with an eye and a large mouth and a bunch of tentacles with eye stalks. And I let them figure it out. Yeah,
that's a fun exercise, even that I find to do, is trying to describe it, because it's you're trying to take this picture, and the picture is nothing in our life.
Yeah.
And
or I'll hold up the book covering all the pertinent information and show them the picture of the creature. Or if I have time, I'll actually just print a picture of the creature and hold up the picture and say, this is what you see. But I don't actually say, you see a zombie, you see a skeleton, you see an ithalid. I don't just give the name. Kind of like the way spells work. I don't say, he casts this.
Right.
I say, you see this gesture, and then suddenly you feel yourself getting more and more stupid.
Yeah.
As opposed to saying feeble mind spell.
Well, it's great to do that because I've had players who and I actually don't mind. I don't mind the metagaming aspect of this, especially when they're prepping for a big boss battle. But they love going into the monster manual and seeing what exactly the heck I'm describing it is.
Oh, but, no, I don't let them do that. I keep the monster manual and the DM's guide. All they get is the player's guide.
Yeah, I can't stop them. They go home and look on the computer. But the thing is they don't realize is my monsters are rarely the same thing in there.
That's what I do as well. Especially for people who've played for years and know exactly all the weaknesses of the Red Dragon or all the weaknesses of the Wraith. Mine don't work that way.
Yeah.
In fact, I've had players, for instance, a player cleric was frustrated because he couldn't turn the undead I sent at him. And he started grabbing the monster manual. I said, nope. He goes, well, this should be working. I'm like, you don't know. They look undead, but you don't know.
Yeah.
And it turns out they were undead, but they actually had living souls inside operating them.
Yeah.
So they weren't actually true undead. They were, but they weren't. They were different than what he was able to turn.
Yeah.
And once they found that out, at the end of the game, when I told him what it was, he's like, oh, okay. I said, don't expect to get your information, especially if you already knew it, because I will change it up based on what I know you know, just to make it more interesting.
Yeah.
I love that twist on it too, and I hope somebody listening steals that. We actually,
Oh yes, all of these are up for stealing. Of course, it's not stealing if I just give it away.
Yes.
So
well, I mean, you heard on Starlight, so you can give us some little money.
yeah, because they have to pay me for my gas.
But I had it. I lost it.
That's okay.
Oh.
Aging sucks. Go ahead.
It does. Yes, I'm becoming a corpse myself.
He does have some gray hair in his facial hair.
I do.
Well, he's married, so that's
He's
what
looking-
happens.
You know, marriage just brings out the classiness. That's what marriage does.
I'm glad you say so. So
Yes.
the spells thing, I remember now. The spells thing, that's a really cool idea. And I'm probably half and half where I like explain what the spell is doing
Mhm.
instead of saying its name. But sometimes I'll just say it once, like all the players know what magic missile is. I'm not going to say it over and over again.
Right.
But
Right.
that's a really cool thing because we have a lot of like new GMs listening in or people who are getting into D&D, and that's a cool thing to do, I think, because I feel like with the monster manual you can go look it up in hindsight, but with spells you're not going to usually remember so and so spell and go look it up. It's usually in the moment, and then it's hard to like figure out what spell it is. It's like, okay, it could be like any of these 3 spells. I don't know which one it is.
True.
Which is cool.
That's why I try to get familiar as much as I can with all the common spells.
Mm-hmm.
Charm Person, Magic Missile, Fireball, Call Lightning, that a lot of people use.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the other weird ones, then I'll have to look it up and see what it does, just to make sure that what they're trying to do. Like, again, yesterday, I only had 2 guys playing, and they got into a big cavern, and they heard these heavy, heavy footsteps coming in, and the Cyclops roared into the cavern, and it's just 2 of them, and this is a huge creature, as listed by the Monster Manual, and I had a Warlock who had Charm Person, and I wanted to look up to see how Charm Person works, if it would work on this, because normally you think of like another person,
Yeah.
and I looked it up, and it said humanoid, and I just went, why not?
Yeah.
It's got 4 legs, or 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head. That's humanoid. And I will do that. I will, if the person comes up with something really, really innovative, if I think, wow, that's clever as heck, I'm going to let it go. And so I let him cast Charm, and he charmed the thing, and they got by without a fight, which is what I appreciate when my players are smart. Because another group that I run, they broke into a room, and there was like 9 orcs just hanging out in the room, and there was 4 of them, and the wizard went, odds not good, so he started tossing them each a gold piece, and he ended up recruiting them. And I did the rolls. I did like he did a persuasion roll, and I did a kind of a combat roll against, not a combat roll, but combating his wisdom check or his persuasion check, and they lost, so he had an army of 9 orcs that he took through the rest of the dungeon.
Nice.
So I reward player innovation.
Were you playing this at work?
Yes.
Nice. So tell me about you playing this at work, because most people would love to get paid to play D&D at
Yes,
work.
it's an amazing thing. I kind of fell into it.
Yeah.
I work at a confinement facility, and we have people who are in treatment.
Wait, can you explain a confinement facility?
Well, they did stuff that society says no to, and
Okay.
so now they've been put in this facility to go through therapy and things like that.
Okay.
So their social skills aren't the best,
Mm-hmm.
and that's one thing after doing some research. In fact, there's a research group in Seattle called, I think, what's the website? Like RPG therapy.org or something like that. I'm not positive.
Yeah,
I
we
didn't
can
prepare.
track
I
it
didn't know it was going to be a test.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we can put that in the description, that link.
Right, once we figure out what it really is. But they did research on how role-playing games help people with autism, PTSD, horrible social skills in general, shyness, that type of thing. So at my job about 4 years ago, I decided I'm going to start running games here, and I got the approval of my boss and everything. And in fact, there's another facility that's next to us where these guys come from originally. They go there first, and when they're deemed doing well enough to come to our facility, which transitions them back into society, in the main facility, they were playing Dungeons and Dragons. Just them as a group with no staff running the game, just them. So I decided, well, a lot of these guys have played already, so I'll start one over here. And it's taken off. I have approval of all the management. It's actually an actual program now, and it's called Dialectic Roleplay Therapy.
Dialectic Roleplay
Therapy.
That's amazing.
Okay.
What it does is it really helps, and everybody who's played can kind of see this when they do a little hindsight. It helps people learn to cooperate with each other. It helps them find a place in the group, an important niche, I guess you'd say. And it teaches you social skills, and it's a safe place to do something, to try a social skill that you're not comfortable with in a safe environment where there's really no repercussions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I encourage peer pressure when it comes to somebody being a jerk at the table.
Yeah.
I have no problem with them telling them, stop being a jerk at the table. And I will tell them, look, if you don't play nice, you can't play at all. And that kind of helps set some people up for real life.
Yeah.
Whether they have a job or they're in a social situation that if they act like a jerk, they're not going to be accepted.
Yeah.
You hold people to a higher expectation.
I do.
Right? So,
Now, I don't do the... Monty Cook Games came out with it. The social contract thing, or the what was it? It was the PC way to start a game. Like you had a list.
Yeah, there's a lot of those.
A list of what people are uncomfortable with. But my thing is, I do a session 0 with who I'm going to play with. I'm going to tell them, this is the game I'm playing. And if they don't like it, they can go somewhere else and find a different table.
Yeah.
Because if I try to cater to every single need of each person, I might as well be running Monopoly at that point.
That will probably be very freeing for a lot of people to hear.
Yeah.
Well, and I think for a lot of GMs that they forget, because we were talking about this earlier, that we as GMs, I'm the same way. We just want to facilitate happiness. When I see people getting happy, I'm happy. But there is an element where we need to be happy as well.
Well, right. There's no point in running a fantasy game, aka a Lord of the Rings like thing, if you're not going to kill an orc.
Yeah.
If killing is one of your triggers, you should probably play the game Toon, where you play a cartoon character like Wile E. Coyote, so no matter what happens, you never get hurt.
Yeah.
Or something along those lines. Yeah. Because I looked at the list and it had things like ghosts, spiders, blood. I'm like, well, that's my entire game.
There's
right
a
there.
lot of spiders in there. There's one that teleports.
Yeah, that's right. Or if you have any drow community.
Yeah.
So if I just say, look, here's the game I'm going to run. And it's not like, well, sometimes I'll describe heads coming off and blood flowing. That's fine. But so it's like an R-rated game at most, and I only if it's going to be like a dramatic kill or something like that. I don't describe everything. But yeah, the social contract thing is fine, but that's something that you and your players should figure out amongst yourselves, because I play with people who I've known a while. And none of them have any hang-ups about anything we do. So we don't worry about it. But otherwise, it's a reading the table. When you do your 0 session, you get your players together, you talk to them, you find out what they want in a game. Not just what we just now discussed, but also just story-wise. You guys like a lot of social interaction, a lot of exploration, a lot of combat, which are the 3 main pillars of a D&D game. So you find out what they want, so you can tailor the game to them to a point. And then throw them, curveballs during the session itself. And I also like to start players in the middle of action.
Oh, that's a nice hot start.
Because the trope is you all meet in a tavern, and it's like, yeah, that works great. But I'm more like, so you're hanging onto the buckboard as the wagon you're driving is hurling down the dirt road with orcs on horseback hot on your heels. And that's how I'll start it like that. I like starting people in different things.
Yeah.
There's the classic, you wake up in a cell and you're naked.
Yeah, those are fun starts, because then people engage right away. There's messing around, but some the tavern start, like you said, is good. It's great for a slow build. And
it's good, especially for new players who aren't ready to start drawing weapons and killing things in the first 30 seconds where you start. But like I said, I read the game as far as who's playing it. And if it's experienced players, I could start them anywhere. You just fell out of the air balloon and you're plummeting to the ground. What do? And they'll be ready to go. They're like, oh, I cast Featherfall, and we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas a new player would be like, time's up, you're dead.
Lethal
Splats.
session. But so I imagine though, with your work, where you're sorry, I'm forgetting the name of the therapy, the type of therapy.
Dialectic roleplay therapy.
Dialectic.
Ooh,
That was my radio voice.
that
Dance.
was.
That was
That's
pretty
good.
good. I need to learn how to do that.
Comes from doing the voices for the game.
Yeah, you get good at it over time. Like, who needs a
Right.
coach, right? And you just can play D&D for your whole life.
That's it.
But I imagine, though, when you're kind of working with some of the folks there, that starts can be rough with groups at times. And sometimes I'm sure it's completely fine.
I have a couple players who are not as intellectually advanced as some others, because we have a lot of developmentally disabled people there. Not so much that they can't do anything, it's just that they might be 40 but have the mind of a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
And that's just who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And so I sometimes have to cater things to how they work.
Mm-hmm.
I might have to explain which die to roll each time we go into combat, because they
Okay.
can't remember from session to session what die it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's all part of it. The whole thing is to not get angry at your players. Now if it's friends of yours and the guy's up and he's taking a minute and a half to look up a spell he should have been looking up 10 minutes ago. Yeah, you could go, dude, come on.
Yeah.
We're passing you by. We're coming back to you.
Right.
Yeah.
But when you're working with the special groups like this, you kind of have to let them set the pace of the game.
Mm-hmm.
As much as you want to get going. And it's actually easier on you if you let them set the pace of the game.
Yes. Yeah. I think that using this as like a social almost experiment and improving social skills is really powerful. And I could see how that could really help in a lot of, like, in those scenarios where people are maybe developmentally in different places.
Mhm.
I like that a lot. Yeah, it's good work you're doing there.
Thank you.
So
Yeah.
I know that. So in our Discord community,
Mhm.
we made an announcement that we were going to talk to you and kind of gave a little bit of your background.
I hope you didn't lose
And-
half your group, because
No, we actually
We
gained
lost-
people.
Oh
Can you
my
believe that?
gosh.
Those
Okay.
poor schmucks. No, we actually had someone from another podcast. So Cameron over at Table Talk Podcast wanted to actually specially ask you a few questions.
all right.
So that's and I think this one kind of fits in the vein, but he says, I feel like we hear more and more of D&D and other tabletop RPGs being used for therapy and as outreach. With your time in the hobby and your profession, what's your most proud moment?
Probably when I hear about somebody who is, quote unquote, graduated from the program and they're out on their own and everything, and I hear information how they're doing and they're still playing. They found a group out there because they were really great in my group,
Mm-hmm.
and they went out there and they continued playing, even though they didn't start playing until my group. They never played before they were at our facility, but they are continuing to play out in the community and enjoying it.
That's got to be, I just can't imagine. That's got to be an amazing feeling. Because
It is. I'm kind of surprised. I thought, this is something to kill time while you're here doing your thing, like to get all your ducks in a row to get out. But if they continue to play because they enjoyed it so much when they were running games with us, that's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
have you ever had anyone turn into a GM themselves?
Actually, yes. Depending on who wants to, I've had a couple of our guys run a game. I'll run an adventure,
Oh, cool.
and then I let them run an adventure. We just finished one before the game we're playing now, where one of the residents was running a first edition rule set. It's a reorganization of the rule set. I don't know if you ever heard of the OSR community,
Very
old school
vague.
Renaissance.
Okay.
People who like playing first edition,
Yeah.
even today,
Mm-hmm.
they like the first edition feel.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of gaming companies out there who are publishing OSR rules.
Mhm.
They're like revamping the original D&D rules. I mean, before first edition, like the 3 pamphlets
Mm-hmm.
where dwarf and elf were classes. Yeah, exactly.
That's so weird.
Humans had classes, and then elf and dwarf were their own class because they got a lot of advantages human didn't.
Oh, wow.
Right. And then also they had level caps.
Okay.
Like if you were halfling, you could only go up to 7th level. You couldn't go any higher.
What was the highest level?
Well, for a halfling, I think it was 7th.
But for what, like...
Wizard was like 9th. The fighter was like 8th. That's the highest you could get. Yeah, they had all kinds of other caps.
What does it go to now?
No, 20.
As much as you want.
Okay.
After 10, though, it's kind of boring. Because then you're just a black hole of experience points. And everything you run into, you can kill by looking at it wrong. So it's like, I very rarely have had players or even my characters go to 10.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You know, I like to start people, if they're experienced, at 3.
Yeah.
Level 3. And once you hit 6, 7, and 8, you know, you're kind of tapped out as far as being able to challenge them without making stuff up.
Mm-hmm.
You're fighting an elder god. Cthulhu is standing in front of you. I mean, what are you going to do with that?
Yeah.
So, but they've been publishing a lot of OSR rules. And one of our guys ran Swords and Wizardry, which is one of the companies.
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Or I should say that's one of the games that a company puts out, which is a better organization of the original rules. Because the original rules that Gary Gygax and David Arneson wrote are horribly organized in the book. They are not in a way where you can look stuff up quickly.
Mm-hmm.
You have to search all over for one sentence that said what you needed to hear.
Oh, gosh.
And so they've reorganized them into a much more friendly format.
Mm-hmm.
But they're essentially the same thing. And he ran that because that's what he grew up with. He's an older gentleman. And so he ran us through that. And it was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it gives them a chance to kind of be in charge of something and organize. It teaches them organization skills when they run a game because they have to figure out all the monsters. They have to figure out their setting because his was a total homebrew. He wrote them. There was no module.
Yeah.
So he just wrote it himself.
Did you have to kind of like corral him into doing that? Or
No.
Okay.
He offered. He said, "Can I run a game?" I said, "Absolutely." And I said, "If you want, since you're not familiar with 5th and you are familiar with 1st edition, I have a book that's basically for 1st edition rules you can use to set up your game." He goes, "Great." And that's what we did.
Awesome.
Yep.
That's very cool.
I try to slowly do this like little Inception game. I don't know how it's going. I'll let you know when I find out.
Okay.
But I really love co-creating these stories, and you're always co-creating these stories no matter what, when however you do GM or DM with your players.
Mhm.
But I love putting my players on the spot every once in a while and asking, what do they see? What is there that even I don't know what's there, and slowly like putting them in the DM seat and letting them like kind of like gain
I can
that
see that, yeah.
experience. And like even when I'm like making I like to do like a handout of like world expectations and all that, basically like a session 0 just in a piece of paper.
Okay.
You know, that's something I like to do. So people like that, that's cool. But I oftentimes like giving a limited world and then saying, hey, if you guys want to write a backstory, write anything you want. I'll fill in the blanks, but if you want to make up whatever, I'll roll with it.
Right.
And like figure
so
out
you
how
use
to
whatever
implement.
town they grew up in,
Yeah.
or whatever bad thing happened to
Monarchy.
them, and then
Mhm.
you incorporate that into your setting,
Yeah.
and then that way they can run into it later.
My goal is to do this long enough with people that then I'm like, hey, do you want to run a game? You want to try? And they're like, no, I'm not ready. And I say, look at what you did.
For those out there who have never run a game, it looks really intimidating, and it can be if you let it be. I have learned, when I first started running games, I was writing giant 20-page soliloquies about the entire world and everything, and they never saw it.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, I was like, okay, well, this is dumb. Now I use like 3x5 note cards and those little Dollar Tree notebooks,
Yep.
you know, with the black and white speckled cover. And pro tip, all you need to do is stock your world, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm doing, let's say I'm doing a basic dungeon crawl, I'll draw up the rooms, I'll stock it with treasure and monsters and traps. I will say the adventure hook is they're rescuing somebody, or they're looking for a magic object, or there's untold riches, whatever, you know, and especially if experienced players, they know that they just want to go on an adventure and you don't have to coerce them.
Mm-hmm.
They're ready to do whatever you have set in front of them. And then I just say go. And then I react based on what they do in the environment I just have stocked with stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't actually write a story where they're going to go at each time, because that's called railroading, and that's bad. Because railroading is what video games do.
Yeah.
You can only go one or two different paths depending on the type of game, but you're limited by the programming. With this game, you are not limited by anything. Now, invariably, you can set up this whole thing, and the dungeon is on the right. You take a right at the fork and you hit the dungeon. Invariably, your players are going to go left.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So it's like the first casualty of your battle plan is the players. So all you need to do instead of freaking out is when they go left, suddenly the dungeon is on the left.
Yeah.
Just move it. Don't stress out because they're not following the path in your brain. You're not writing a novel, kids. You're setting up a sandbox for these people to play in. Mm-hmm. So just have stuff in your sandbox all over, and then they will do all the work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They create the story, and I just react.
Yeah.
Like, I expected the one guy to fight all 9 orcs.
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't. He recruited him. I expected him to fight the Cyclops. But no, they charmed him instead.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Be flexible. Take some improv classes so you can learn to think on your feet. Or on your butt if you're sitting down. And that is the key. The key to running a dungeon is to let them run it for you.
Mm-hmm.
They do quite a bit.
They do most of the work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My prep session is about 15 minutes, depending on what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm running one now because of the COVID thing. We've had to separate the group somewhat
Mm-hmm.
because we're about outbreaks and things like that. So the group I had is split, and we have 4 on one group and 2 on the other. So I'm running 2 different days because we can't have the 2 separate right now. So the main group, the 4, have completed the original mission that all of them started on.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what I'm doing is I'm having the other 2 go a different way and find their way there.
Mm-hmm.
And that way, when we're allowed to have everybody mix again after we've, inoculations and everything, the groups will meet up and continue on as a group. So with the group of 2, I'm actually running it off the top of my head every single time.
Wow.
I have not written down one thing.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of have a rough idea. We're actually set in Skullport, underneath Waterdeep.
Okay.
That's where they started.
That's actually a really cool city.
It is. And they're going a different way. I have a guide, kind of a DM babysitter to help them. And they went into a different entrance into the Undermountain to find the group, to catch up with the group.
Okay.
And so I don't have anything written down. I just kind of think,
Yeah.
the day before, all right, I'll have them run into this, this, and this. And as far as the dungeon goes, I just kind of make it up.
As you go.
Turns and doors. I just put them wherever I think it'd be cool for them to find them.
Yeah.
And your players won't know the difference. If you just put on that confident air like this whole thing has been planned for 10 years and you're unleashing it now, as opposed to I'm pulling this out of my butt as we speak. It's actually easy once you get comfortable with your knowledge of the game. And a lot of times I don't even have the book open for monster stats. I don't nerf the rules per se, but I do a lot of homebrewing with my rules. So like orcs are like a 2-hit kill instead of worrying about hit points.
And that allows you to be more free flowing and quicker on your feet, right?
Well, and it makes the combat quicker.
Yeah.
Because nothing is worse than fighting 3 things and it's taking you an hour and a half because of all the die rolls.
What's worse is when they're all rats or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
You should be able to squish.
Yeah. So I do use the Minion Rule from 4th edition.
I love that rule.
Where it's like each minion has 1 hit point. That way they can wade through like Conan if they want. And it makes them feel more powerful until they get to the guy who's actually big enough to stand up against them. But yeah, I don't worry about the hit points on my monsters so much. I just, they're like a 2-hit kill or a 4-hit kill or an 8-hit kill. And that way I don't have to roll a bunch of dice.
Right.
Because I also, when I have them roll for damage, I have them roll I roll a hit, they roll their damage dice at the same time, again, to save time. And we do group initiative instead of single initiative, again, to save time, make combat, speed the combat up, and get through it. Because combat should be fast. Because in real life, it's fast and chaotic. It's not organized at all.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So
No, not at all. And D&D tries to get it in this nice, neat order. And
yeah, that's actually the initiative thing came from old time war games like Sir Arthur Conan Doyle
Okay.
kind of came up with the initiative rule for war games back in the 1800s.
The one that they're still using today in D&D, like the roll whatever dice and it's your order.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that came about from older war games when you're moving entire armies and stuff, because it was a turn-based, initiative-based type setting. And so you could do something as simple as whoever, it's dexterity. So every time the fastest dude goes first. And then I believe Mike Merles has developed his own that he likes to use where it's a die. Like all missile weapons go first, and like magic users roll a d4, and fighters roll like a d12. Whoever gets the lowest goes first. So it depends on what you're playing.
Yeah, I've been
hard.
That is hard. I've been intrigued by it because it makes a lot of sense. It's really cool,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think it would work very well with like either players who are very stuck in their ways and have a certain way they
That
want
is
to
it
play,
right there.
or new players who because suddenly now you're not throwing just one die 20 at them. You're throwing. Not only do you got to premeditate on what you're going to do next and have that ready,
Mm-hmm.
but with other players, I think it's worth trying.
Right. The way I do it is I do group initiative, and if they win the initiative, it goes clockwise. Like say, for instance, if Jones rolls initiative, who's ever clockwise next to him goes first, all the way back around to Jones.
Okay.
And then the next time they roll and they win, the guy next to Jones rolls it and then goes clockwise again. That way, clockwise for each roll of the initiative dice, and starting from the next guy who sits next to the initiative roller goes clockwise in turn base.
Okay.
Around that way. And it keeps it organized, and it's a lot faster than trying to figure out who had 18 to 20, 16 to 18, whatever. And it just, again, combat to make it faster.
Yeah. Well,
And-
so I did like this. Viewers of the show know that for smaller groups, I like to do a card system.
Savage Worlds does that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think
I
it's
also play that quite frequently.
That's I haven't played it, but I've heard great things about it.
It's an amazing. Now it's a generic system, so you can put any setting to it. But technically, so is D&D, because you can find science fiction games based on 5th edition rules. But it is, instead of a number for your stats, it's a die. So you start with a D4 and your strength. They have different names for them, but your strength, your agility, that type of thing. And then you get a certain amount of points to buy a little higher die, like 1 for 1.
That's cool.
You get 5 points to put in there, so you can make everything a 6, or you can leave 1 or 2 things a 4 and make them an 8, a D8. And then when you're rolling for a check of any kind, whether it be combat or to drive a car through traffic and not crash, you roll whatever your die is. Excuse me, my voice is still changing. Whatever the die is in your skill.
Yeah.
Because you also have different 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 in skills, like notice and acrobatics and things like that. You roll whatever your die is in that skill along with a 6-sided die called a wild die. And you take whatever one is higher, and you only need to hit 4 or above. All your skill checks are 4 and above.
Oh, wow.
Interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
And you have to try to meet or beat their parry in combat, for instance, if you're doing melee combat, because they have a parry based on their abilities. It's a combined thing where you add the two together, divided by 2, and then that's your parry. So if you roll, say your fighting skill is an 8, a
Right.
D8. You roll a D8 and a D6. Whichever one rolls above a 4, or if they both do, you hit him, but you have to beat. If he has a 5 parry, you have to roll that 5 or above.
Okay.
So you can get this volley back and forth.
You can.
That sounds really
And
cool.
if the die rolls its highest number, if an 8 rolls an 8, 6 rolls a 6, you get to roll it again.
Okay.
It's called a raise.
Okay.
And then that helps you, beat the parry. If it's a ranged attack, you just have to hit a 4
Okay.
because you can't parry a bullet unless there's some ability that lets you do that, or it adds to your parry, or not parry, but it adds to your ability to move or whatever.
Jay,
And depending on the setting.
you should definitely come back for a one shot where you GM for the show. A
Okay.
Savage Worlds game for
Okay.
us. That would be so fun.
Sure.
All right,
Sure.
you heard it.
Threaten me with gaming.
That you heard it. The man's in.
Yeah,
Um,
we're doing it.
We're kind of. I feel like we're kind of getting a little bit long in the tooth, but I wanted to save some time for a few more things. So I'm gonna kind of like segue us a little bit. But
Okay.
first, we have one more question from the Q&A chat, and I think that this one kind of goes well with what we were talking about before about, don't stress when you're running your game.
Right.
Let the ideas come to you. And I've heard a lot of this advice of like, take stories you've read about, take things that you've seen in movies for inspiration to figure out
I
what's
steal
next.
constantly.
Perfect. I knew you were
can't-
going to say that.
If it's not from a setting in D&D, it's from something I just watched and went, that would be cool. In fact, when I watch certain shows, I go, that'd make a great Savage Worlds game, or that'd make a great D&D game. In fact, I've watched movies that for the sole purpose of finding inspiration.
Mhm.
I mean, there's the Iron Sky series of movies
Yeah.
where you have Nazis who live on the moon and ride T-Rexes. If that's not cool for a game, I don't know what is. I'm like, I want to play that.
Sharknado.
Yeah, exactly.
So, see, this is perfect because we have people in the community who are curious. What are like if you had to pick three, what are your three go-to places for inspiration when either running a game or creating content?
I will look at, that's hard. I don't know if I have just three. Certain films that I can look at them and just say, hey, I bet that has some really cool steampunk aspect or fantasy aspect that I can use. Some fantasy novels, like the Mistborn series,
Ugh, beautiful.
with the allomancy magic is like the coolest thing, and I'm still trying to figure out a way to work that into the D&D magic setup, because I think that using different metals to push, pull, and all this other stuff is really cool. I also steal from other D&D modules. When I'm doing something in the Underdark, I can't use the actual module. Into the Underdark, I believe it is, where you start with you're in a drow jail. To be honest, and this is nothing against Wizards of the Coast, but it's a really crappy module because it's very boring. It's great as a setting. If you use it as a setting for the Underdark, that's what I use.
Okay.
You take certain areas like Menzoberranzan and some of the tunnels and things that live there. Use that, but write your own story, because otherwise you're just plodding through the Underdark with no actual mission.
Right.
You're just leaving the Underdark and trying to find your way out. And I've played it. I played it with somebody else running it. We played it probably for about 2 months, and we finally said, "Look, it's not you. It's us.
What a bad breakup.
It's the game. This is a horrible module. It goes nowhere. So you're running it great. It's just that we're not having any fun doing it."
Yeah.
Which again is the whole point of the game, is to have fun.
And that's because there was no like overarching mission or
There
goal.
was no
Kind of-
reason for us to be in there other than we were already there.
Okay, that makes sense.
And I'm not sure why it ended up that way.
Okay.
There are certain modules that are great and there are certain modules that are okay. There's a couple YouTube videos that kind of, these guys break it down to what their opinion is, or a poll of which are the best modules to run. The last one I checked, Curse of Strahd, was like at the top. And I've run that. It is a lot of fun. And I've run Dragon Heist, Waterdeep Dragon Heist, which is a lot of fun.
That's a great one.
Because, they get to do social skills and open a bar.
Yeah.
And when I ran it with the guys at work, they actually started figuring out how much their income was and how much they were spending on supplies. They actually started doing a whole mercantile thing, and I don't know if I might have got bored. I'm like, but they were having a good time figuring out how to run a bar, and I'm like, okay.
15 years from now, you're going to get an invite to
To
whatever
the Trollsville
saloon.
Manor Bar.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
No, that's awesome. I think because movies and books are probably the best place to consume things. TV shows.
Right.
Heck, even video games are starting to get to the point of being so cinematic that you can
They
see
are.
little pieces.
They are.
Still
can't get me to play them, though.
Skyrim didn't get him. Oh,
No, Skyrim didn't get me.
Because
it was so narrow focused,
It's true.
I got bored.
I
was
actually
like,
have a hard time with video games now because of tabletop role playing games.
Yep. I'm ruined.
So,
Sorry, Sega.
Sega, you can still sponsor us. Well, I wanted to save some time because not only do you do all these cool things with D&D and you have this storied history and all of this sage advice, but you are also a content creator on YouTube.
I am.
And
I
we have a resource channel we run. And we've been getting, with COVID, a lot of people are starting to like realize things they want to try and do. And we've had people reach out who have never played D&D and they're looking for like resources. So I would love for those who want to kind of get into this little side hobby. You specifically make terrain and all sorts of cool things. Can you tell us a little bit about what your channel's called and then what you do on it?
Well, it's called RPG DIY. And in hindsight, maybe not the best title because you type that in and you get a lot of people who they're just RPG DIY projects. They're not the actual channel. So you kind of have to put in channel at the end. And I believe you actually have the... Do you have that you can put in the...
Sure. It'll be in the doobly-doo link and in the resource channel.
Excellent. So go there. Don't listen to me. But that's what it's called. And I do reviews on products that I thoroughly enjoy. I won't review something I don't like because what's the point? I'd just be trashing somebody else's work. But I do reviews on some things. And I build terrain using mainly XPS foam, which oddly enough is kind of hard to find in our area, at least the half-inch size. I can get the inch size door frame size.
Oh, the giant ones?
The pink foam, so I had to order it on Amazon. Oh well.
Yeah.
But anyway, and I also show how to do a lot of 2D stuff, especially with COVID and people are running video chats, and when they want to set up a camera to show the actual battle mat with figures and things, it can be kind of hard to show when you have like full-size walls and things, which I don't do. I do like half-size walls because you can't see the figures.
Right.
I've seen you set these up before too, and it doesn't detract at all. It still looks amazing.
That's and also if you ever have to go somewhere to run a game, it's much more portable. Because I do a couple videos on how to do the 2D terrain where I just use sticky floor tiles that have a stone pattern on them, and you cut them into strips and put rubber backing on them, and you can draw stones on the top and you lay those down. Instead of drawing your dungeon on your grid, you just lay those down as your walls.
And so I know for me, like crafting like that is not necessarily my love. My love's the writing and the storytelling aspect.
Right.
And I definitely have been overwhelmed at times. And your projects actually, you do it in such a way that it's easy to follow, easy to understand. But for like a caveman like me, I still find them a little too difficult. But that specific one, as anyone can do that. Like,
oh yeah,
it was great.
It's like, it's like $1 something for the 12x12 floor tile, and you can get all kinds of walls out of it.
Yeah.
I've also done actual full 3D rocks out of the pink foam using I don't have a hot wire table, but I have a hand hot wire cutter, and how to paint them, how to seal them first so the paint just doesn't soak into the foam, and then paint them up to look like rocks. So you could lay down a gray tile or no tile. I don't even use grids very often, to be honest with you, to measure distance. I just kind of like look at it and go, that's close.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to get away from the board gamey feel that a grid can use, that makes it feel like that.
Right.
So I try not to use it as much unless I absolutely have to. But I'll do 3D terrain. It's not as transportable, but it can be because it's super light for one thing.
But the trade-off is the immersion level is so much higher.
Exactly. I'm huge on immersion, hence I do voices. Plus I do music and sound effects as well. In fact, it's much more fun when somebody's trying to pick a lock and they roll their dice and you see that it succeeds and you tap the button for the sound of a door opening.
Yep.
It's much, instead of saying, yeah, you got the lock. Because then you can see their eyes like light up. They're like, oh my gosh, I got it, because they hear the door open.
Right.
And so I as much as I can, I use music and sound effects as well as voices for the total immersion, and then of course the terrain.
Yeah.
Because the more you can see, the less you have to describe.
Speaking from the player perspective, not ever having been a GM, it's really cool and super rewarding. I remember when Isaac started doing it, and it added so much to my level of involvement and like immersion.
When you have players sneaking in, nobody failing their stealth rolls, into this cavern where they think there's something there, and you crank the volume up and play a dragon roar, and you watch people at the table literally jump in the chair like big jerk, like, oh, that is the most rewarding thing.
For sure.
Because if that doesn't feel as real as it can get when they're actually scared at the table, especially if you're running something like Call of Cthulhu and you have like the lights low and candles lit and you start playing eerie, weird noises and stuff and you get that creep factor up, that is the best.
Yeah.
You could have the worst scenario in history, but because the atmosphere is so good, they will just love what you're doing.
Yeah, and I've experienced that over and over again. And I recommend it. It's even as simple as like if you can go Tabletop Audio online. They have a Patreon as well, and you can do all that for free. You can also
that's my favorite right there.
As Spotify. My only caveat that I'd say is if you're on Spotify, be careful with the songs you pick. For example, I don't know how, but the Shire, Welcome to the Shire from The Hobbit ended up on my playlist. And I must absolutely mind to put it on there. Now I can't take it off because it's a running joke for me and my players. But nothing ruins the ambiance more than the Hobbits flutes coming on and everyone going, Bilbo.
Yeah.
As we're fighting a dragon.
I don't play that playlist while we're fighting a dragon, but come on.
It can be a problem if it's very, very recognizable music. I mean, if you're playing Star Wars, play Star Wars music.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But when you're playing, you're deep in the dungeon and there's dripping water and the sound of echoing footfalls and dun 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 comes on, you're like, crap, and it just totally destroys the mood.
Yeah, it does.
So, and for those of you who like to stream your games, copyright can be an issue.
Yep.
So make sure you choose things that are free to use so people don't come hammering at your door with a lawyer in tow, because that can be a pain. That's happened before.
And so for that, I recommend, if you're going to stream and do that, Kevin Macleod on incompetech.com is a really good place. He has a very stringent way of citing his songs, but it's all completely free as long as you do so. Let's see. I don't know what Tabletop Audio is, but Sirenscape is fine for you to use it as long as you accredit them, and obviously as long as you're paying. So those are some good go-tos. Right.
A lot of music artists will let you use their stuff for this if you say where you got it.
Right.
Mention their name.
It's as simple as that. Well, as we're kind of getting close to kind of ending this out, Jay, I have a few more important questions.
Oh boy.
And the only promise is until we get to the last one, you got to answer them as quick as possible.
Oh boy. Okay.
If you
were a lightning round.
Yeah. If you were a dessert, what would you be?
Pineapple upside down cake.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Okay. Die 20 or die 100?
Die 20.
Ooh. If you could live in any TV show, what would it be?
Star Trek.
Sloth or platypus?
Platypus, because I want to poison things.
One note, when you call Jay's phone, we should call your phone.
Please don't do that.
Should we do it right now?
Yes.
No, don't do it. Okay.
It's very funny.
All right,
very funny.
All right.
I feel like okay, ready? So we're ringing to Jay's phone right now.
Oh boy.
It is awesome.
Here, throw it over here. We get a better mic right here. It's gonna take a second.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun,
This is great use of the airtime.
That's not the song.
It's coming.
Please listen to the music while your party's being reached.
Why is it ringing so long? It's never
It rings this long every time, guys.
Yeah.
Every time.
Okay.
I'm gonna have to edit this down.
This is Science Officer Spock, and currently there are no life forms available to take your call. But at the prearranged audio signal, please feel free to leave any verbal communication you feel is necessary. Live long and prosper.
Yep, hardcore trekker. All the way.
Love it.
So when Jay says he would live in Star Trek, he kind of made Star Trek his reality in some way.
Spock's my hero, ain't gonna lie.
I love it.
Now, this is a really important one. Answer honestly, answer quick, and this is going to show how much you actually care about us. Who's your favorite spacer from the Starlight podcast?
Well, both of you.
McKenna, Atlas, or Clive?
All of them.
Ugh.
We definitely that wasn't promising. You're in the hot water. And this one, go ahead and take as long as you need to think about this.
Oh, all right.
But can you give our audience a story hook to kickstart their next adventure as we close out?
Oh, give me a second here.
Should we call this one again?
No, don't do it. Yeah. So, again, since I like to start mainly experienced players, but you could probably do this with new players as well. They are at the celebration or the inauguration of some town official, and he's assassinated right in front of them. And so now they have to find the assassin and stop whoever it is who wants to take over the town.
Dun dun dun!
There you
go.
Bam! And with that, guys, thanks for jumping in and joining us. Jay, we really appreciate having you.
Thank you very much.
And go ahead and check out all this stuff. You got RPG, DIY, and a few of the other links that we're going to have down in the doobly-doo. So with that, signing off.
Farewell.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Starlight. If you enjoyed this, please like, share, subscribe. For early releases, exclusive RPG content, and other bonus material, check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/starlightadventures. And to reach us for questions to be aired, email us at thestarlightadventures@gmail.com. See you next Tuesday, Spacers.